Professor Zelthar adjusted his 3 translucent eye stalks as he gazed across the massive lecture hall of the Galactic University of Zynath Prime. The room was filled with eager students from dozens of different species, each one focused on the floating holo-display that projected his lesson. Today's lecture was on mythological creatures, and the subject of the day was one of the most controversial and mysterious of them all: humans. Zelthar's gelatinous skin shimmered under the artificial lights as he tapped his neural interface, bringing up an ancient star map. "Now," he began, his voice resonating through the auditorium, "we move on to one of the most debated and widely dismissed myths in galactic history. A creature so contradictory, so absurd in its supposed abilities, that most scholars consider it pure fiction. I am speaking, of course, about the human." A murmur rippled through the audience. Some of the students leaned forward, intrigued. Others chittered in amusement. A few scoffed outright. "According to the fragmented records we've uncovered," Zelthar continued, "humans were said to have originated from a planet called Earth, located in a now-lost sector of the galaxy. The tales surrounding them are, how shall I put it, ridiculously exaggerated. It is said that they possessed an uncanny ability to adapt to any environment, that they were capable of surviving conditions that would obliterate most known species. Some accounts even claim they could breathe toxic air, withstand sub-zero temperatures, and traverse deserts with minimal water. Of course, we now understand these claims to be nothing more than hyperbole." A student raised a tentacle, his gelatinous body shifting colors in curiosity. "Professor, isn't it also claimed that humans had the ability to defeat technologically superior enemies through sheer willpower?" Zelthar made a clicking sound of amusement. "Ah yes, the indomitable human spirit, a central theme in most human myths. Supposedly they had an unnatural ability to resist conquest, to fight against overwhelming odds, and even turn defeat into victory. But let us be logical. No species, no matter how resourceful, could regularly defeat forces with superior technology, numbers, and strategy. That would be absurd. If such a race had truly existed, they would have ruled the galaxy. And yet there is no trace of them." A ripple of laughter spread through the hall. The idea that some long-lost species could have ever rivaled the great empires of the galaxy was preposterous. Zelthar brought up another image, an ancient, distorted depiction of a human figure. "Furthermore, myths state that humans were creatures of emotion, often to their own detriment. They were reckless, aggressive, stubborn beyond reason, and yet paradoxically they were also capable of deep compassion, curiosity, and ingenuity. It is said that they could form alliances where none should exist, that they thrived on chaos, and even, if you can believe it, enjoyed danger. Truly, if they were real, they would be one of the most illogical species in the history of intelligent life." The professor chuckled to himself. "But of course, they are not real. They are a fabrication, likely designed to explain anomalies in pre-galactic history. And now, let us move on to..." The ceiling exploded. A shockwave tore through the auditorium, shaking the very foundation of the university. A blinding white light filled the hall as debris rained down. Students screamed, some diving for cover, others frozen in place, as the emergency system struggled to compensate for the sudden rupture. The acrid scent of scorched metal filled the air, and through the gaping hole in the ceiling, smoke billowed outward. From the swirling chaos, 3 figures emerged. They dropped from the opening with practiced ease, landing in the center of the lecture hall amidst the shattered remains of the ceiling panels. They stood tall, bipedal, armored in battle-worn suits, and unmistakably human. For several seconds, nobody moved. The students, the faculty, even Zelthar himself stood in stunned silence, their minds struggling to reconcile what they were seeing with what they had just been told. The central figure, a broad-shouldered male with short-cropped hair and a scar running down the side of his face, lifted a gloved hand in greeting. "Yo," he said casually, as if he hadn't just crashed through the ceiling of a university. "Hope we're not interrupting." The silence stretched. Zelthar's eye stalks quivered violently. This cannot be." The human smirked. You were just talking about us, right? Figured we'd drop in and set the record straight. A collective gasp rippled through the hall. The mythological humans, the impossible creatures of legend, were standing right in front of them. A second human, a woman with short black hair and a confident expression, nudged the first one in the ribs. "Jack, I swear, your dramatic entrances are going to get us arrested one day." "Worth it," Jack replied. The third human, a smaller, quieter man with glasses and an intricate device strapped to his wrist, was scanning the room with a focused expression. "According to my readings, this is Xynath Prime, Galactic University in the year 5123, which means, yeah, we're about 5,000 years late to our own history lesson." Zelthar took an unsteady step forward, his eye stalks twitching. "Humans! Alive! This defies all scientific understanding." Jack chuckled. "Yeah, we get that a lot." A murmur of disbelief ran through the students. Some whispered in hushed, frantic tones, others simply stared in open-mouthed shock. One alien with crystalline skin hesitantly raised a claw. Excuse me, mythological being, but how did you get here?" Jack cracked his knuckles. "Long story short, we found an old wormhole drive, messed with it a little, and boom, straight into your roof." He glanced up at the hole in the ceiling and winced. "So, sorry about that." Zeldar wobbled forward, barely able to process what was happening. "You mean to say that humans never went extinct? That you have always existed?" The woman, still smirking, crossed her arms. "Not just existed, we thrived." For a long moment, the weight of that statement hung in the air. Then, all at once, the class erupted into chaos. Questions were shouted from every direction. Students scrambled over each other, some in excitement, others in panic. Professors argued furiously, their previous assumptions crumbling before their eyes. Jack held up his hands. All right, settle down. We'll answer your questions. But first we need to know something. What exactly does your history say happened to us?" Zelthar hesitated. "The dominant theory was that humans self-destructed, that your aggressive nature led to your downfall." Jack snorted. "Oh man, you guys really bought into that?" The human with glasses sighed. "Typical. People always assume the worst. The truth is, we left." The room went deathly quiet. Zelthar's voice wavered. "You left?" Jack nodded. "Yeah. We advanced past the need for constant war, figured out better ways to live. And then we moved on, left the galaxy behind, searching for new frontiers." The weight of his words sent a ripple of shock through the audience. Zeldar's eye stalks swiveled. "And now you've returned." Jack's grin widened and his eyes gleamed with something dangerous. "Oh, buddy, you have no idea what's coming next." Professor Zelthar's eye stalks trembled violently as he took an unsteady step forward, struggling to comprehend what was standing before him. His entire academic career, the very foundation of his understanding of galactic history, was crumbling before his eyes. He could feel the stares of his students waiting for him to respond, waiting for him to explain how this was possible, how the impossible was now standing in their midst. His gelatinous skin rippled with stress as he pointed a quivering appendage at the three figures. This must be a deception, a fabrication, some kind of elaborate hoax." Jack, the human with the scar, crossed his arms and grinned. "A hoax? Yeah, I wish. If we were faking this, do you think we'd have chosen to drop through the roof of a university instead of somewhere, I don't know, less dramatic?" The female human, still casually standing beside him, let out a laugh. "Speak for yourself. Personally, I think crashing an entire academic lecture about how we don't exist was a 10 out of 10 entrance." The students were still frozen, their expressions ranging from awe to disbelief. Zelthar could hear their hushed voices whispering among themselves, attempting to process what they were seeing. A student with metallic plating for skin finally spoke up, his voice carrying a mix of apprehension and curiosity. But this is impossible. Humans are a myth. There has never been any verified evidence of your existence. Jack turned toward the student and smirked. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what happens when you leave a galaxy behind and let people make up stories in your absence. Zelthar's mind was spinning. This was not how today's lecture was supposed to go. This was not how anything was supposed to go. He forced himself to regain some semblance of composure, his voice still unsteady as he spoke. You claim that humans never perished? That you have continued to exist beyond known space? The smaller human, the one with glasses and the strange device strapped to his wrist, adjusted his glasses and looked at Zelthar carefully. Correct. Approximately 5,000 years ago, humans made the decision to leave this galaxy behind. We had advanced beyond the need for constant war, constant survival struggles. We outgrew the limitations of our own history, and so we moved forward. Literally. Zelthar's appendages curled inward in sheer disbelief. You are suggesting that your species willingly abandoned an entire galaxy and vanished without a trace? Jack shrugged. Yeah, pretty much. The collective intake of breath from the students was deafening, a race capable of simply leaving everything behind, without war, without disaster, without a grand extinction. It was unheard of. Species died out, empires crumbled, but no one simply left. One of the students, a reptilian being with a crest of bioluminescent frills, raised a claw hesitantly. But why? Why would you leave everything behind? The female human exhaled slowly, her smirk fading just slightly as she glanced toward Jack. The way they looked at each other suggested this was not the first time they had been asked this question. Jack scratched the back of his neck before responding. Because we had to. The galaxy was too small for us. Zelda felt a chill ripple through his body. Too small? The human with glasses nodded. Humanity has always been driven by the need to push further, to explore, to reach for the next unknown. It's written into our history, our biology. At a certain point, when we had charted every corner of this galaxy, when we had mastered every element of survival, when there was nothing left that truly challenged us, we realized we had outgrown it. So, we built the technology to leave, to go beyond, to find something new. A silence fell over the hall, thick with an emotion Zelthar could not define. The weight of what they were saying was almost too much to comprehend. But 5,000 years, Zelthar whispered. That is an immense amount of time. How could an entire species remain hidden for so long? The woman chuckled. Hidden? Oh no, we weren't hiding. We were just too far away for anyone to find us. Jack leaned against a toppled piece of debris, casually inspecting the shocked expressions around him. You have to understand something, Professor. We didn't just travel a few systems away. We didn't colonize the next sector over. We left this entire galaxy. We found new ones, and when we got there, we kept going. Zelthar's vision darkened for a moment as the enormity of what was being said fully hit him. A species had willingly left the known universe behind, traveled through the void, and somehow thrived beyond anything known to science. And now they had returned. A synthetic-bodied student, her glowing eyes pulsing erratically, managed to speak. But why come back now? If you have already moved beyond us, why return at all? Jack's smirk slowly faded, and for the first time since they had arrived, there was something heavy in his expression. He glanced at the others, and after a moment, the man with glasses finally spoke. Because we detected a signal, a distress signal from this galaxy. Zelthar stiffened. A distress signal? Zelthar felt a chill ripple through his body. Too small? The human with glasses nodded. Humanity has always been driven by the need to push further, to explore, to reach for the next unknown. It's written into our history, our biology. At a certain point, when we had charted every corner of this galaxy, when we had mastered every element of survival, when there was nothing left that truly challenged us, we realized we had outgrown it. So we built the technology to leave, to go beyond, to find something new. A silence fell over the hall, thick with an emotion Zelthar could not define. The weight of what they were saying was almost too much to comprehend. But 5,000 years, Zelthar whispered. That is an immense amount of time. How could an entire species remain hidden for so long? The woman chuckled. Hidden? Oh, no, we weren't hiding. We were just too far away for anyone to find us. Jack leaned against a toppled piece of debris, casually inspecting the shocked expressions around him. You have to understand something, Professor. We didn't just travel a few systems away. We didn't colonize the next sector over. We left this entire galaxy. We found new ones. And when we got there, we kept going. Zelthar's vision darkened for a moment as the enormity of what was being said fully hit him. A species had willingly left the known universe behind, traveled through the void, and somehow thrived beyond anything known to science. And now they had returned. A synthetic-bodied student, her glowing eyes pulsing erratically, managed to speak. But why come back now? If you have already moved beyond us, why return at all? Jack's smirk slowly faded, and for the first time since they had arrived, there was something heavy in his expression. He glanced at the others, and after a moment, the man with glasses finally spoke. Because we detected a signal, a distress signal, from this galaxy. Zelthar stiffened. A distress signal? The female human nodded. Yeah, we didn't expect it, but about a year ago we started picking up faint signals, old emergency codes that matched ancient human transmissions. It took us a while to pinpoint the source, and by the time we did, well, we were already heading back. Zelthar's gelatinous skin rippled. But humans have been gone for 5 millennia. Who could possibly be sending a distress signal using your ancient codes? Jack's expression darkened. That's what we're here to find out. For the first time since the humans had arrived, the room was completely silent, not in shock, not in chaos, but in sheer, unfiltered uncertainty. Zelthar felt something deep inside him shift, something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. For all his years studying mythological species, for all the research he had done on humanity, there had always been a sense of detachment. The stories were grand, exaggerated, impossible. But now, faced with 3 living humans, living proof that the legends had been true, he could no longer hide behind academia. The humans had returned, and if they had returned because of a distress signal, then something else had to be out there. Something that had called for their help. And the only thing more terrifying than the humans returning was the question of what could have possibly made them come back. Jack exhaled and clapped his hands together. All right, Professor. You wanted to know if we were real, now you know. And since we kinda broke your roof, how about we call it even if you help us figure out what the hell is going on in this galaxy? Zelthar swallowed hard. He had started the day as an expert on ancient myths, confident in the certainty of his knowledge. But in just a few minutes his world had been rewritten. And as he looked at the 3 humans standing before him, he realized something. This was only the beginning. The silence in the lecture hall was suffocating. Every eye, every sensory organ in the room was locked onto the 3 humans standing at the center of the destruction they had caused. Even the flickering emergency lights struggled to illuminate the weight of their presence, the weight of their words. A distress signal. It had traveled across the endless void, cutting through 5,000 years of silence, reaching a species that had long been written off as legend. A species that had left the galaxy behind, that had outgrown war, politics, and conquest. And yet, here they were, because something or someone had called them back. Zelthar's eye stalks twitched violently, his neural processors struggling to form a coherent response. He had spent his entire life studying history, teaching others about the so-called myths that civilizations carried forward in their cultures, and now those myths had not only walked into his classroom, but they had done so bearing a mystery even larger than their existence itself. His voice, when it finally came, was strained. "You claim that an ancient human distress signal has been activated after 5,000 years of silence?" The smaller human, the one with glasses, nodded as he adjusted the strange device on his wrist. "That's right. It's an old emergency code, a relic from humanity's past, the kind that would have been sent out only in the most extreme circumstances. It took us a while to verify the authenticity, but there's no mistake. This signal is old, buried beneath centuries of galactic noise, but it's real." Zelthar felt a strange, heavy sensation settle into his chest. "But how? The records state that humanity abandoned this galaxy entirely. There should be no one left to send such a signal." The female human, arms crossed, let out a slow breath. "That's what we're here to figure out." One of the students, a tall being with elongated mandibles and iridescent scales, raised a trembling claw. "Are you saying that there may still be humans here? That some of your kind remain?" Jack, the broad-shouldered man, shifted slightly, his expression unreadable. "That's the question, isn't it?" His voice was quieter now, lacking its earlier bravado. "If the signal is authentic, if it's coming from someone who still knows our codes, then it means either a part of humanity never left, or—" He hesitated, jaw tightening. Zelthar picked up on the unspoken implication. "Or someone, or something, has access to human technology." A murmur of concern spread through the students. The very idea of a lost fragment of humanity, left behind and forgotten, was shocking enough. But the possibility that an unknown force was using ancient human systems for purposes unknown, that was something else entirely. The reptilian student from earlier leaned forward. "If this distress signal has existed for so long, why did no one else detect it before? Why did it take 5,000 years for it to be found?" The human with glasses looked up from his device. "Because it wasn't transmitting until recently. The signal wasn't just buried, it was off. Someone turned it on." Zelthar felt a deep, unsettling chill ripple through his body. Jack exhaled and rolled his shoulders. "All right, look. We didn't just come here to scare the hell out of your students. We need information. You guys are supposed to be the experts on old galactic history, right? You've been studying this stuff. That means you might have records of things we don't." The professor hesitated, his academic instincts warring with the sheer absurdity of the situation. He had spent decades studying fragments of myths, sifting through what little remained of pre-galactic civilizations, and yet, faced with the very beings he had long dismissed as fiction, he found himself at a loss. Still, if nothing else, he was a scholar, and scholars sought knowledge. "I will provide whatever historical records we have available," Zelthar finally said. "However, you must understand that the data is fragmented. If humanity truly vanished 5 millennia ago, then whatever remains of your past is buried under layers of rewritten history, cultural distortion, and lost archives." Jack grinned. "That's fine. We're used to digging up things people thought were lost." The woman smirked, usually while dodging gunfire. The tension in the room, while still heavy, seemed to ease slightly at their casual tone. The sheer audacity of the humans, the way they spoke with a reckless confidence that defied reason, made it impossible not to be drawn in. Zelthar motioned toward the central holo-projector. With a few flicks of his appendages, the floating interface shifted, displaying ancient star charts and partially recovered historical data. "These are the records we have been able to reconstruct regarding humanity's supposed departure. They are incomplete, but they may provide some context for whatever signal you detected." The human stepped forward, eyes scanning the data as it flickered across the display. The one with glasses narrowed his eyes. "Wait a second. This doesn't match what we expected. Zelthar tilted his head. What do you mean? The human pointed at a section of the data highlighting a particular timestamp. The last known records of human civilization before our supposed disappearance. This time frame doesn't line up with our own records. According to this, the final transmissions from humanity occurred roughly 200 years after we should have already been gone. The room went dead silent. Zelthar's eye stalk stiffened. That's not possible. Jack's expression darkened. Apparently it is. The implications crashed into Zelthar's mind like a supernova. If the humans had left the galaxy 5,000 years ago, then there should have been no further records of them afterward. And yet, according to the data, some group of humans had still been active for centuries after their supposed departure, which meant they hadn't all left. The woman folded her arms. All right, let's lay it out. You guys thought we were extinct. We weren't. Now we're here, and we're finding out that maybe not all of us left when we thought we did. She exhaled sharply. This is getting complicated. Zelthar felt his mind racing. If there was a faction of humanity that remained behind, their records must have been erased or hidden. The galactic archives contain no mentions of such a thing. The human with glasses tapped at his wrist device. If that's the case, then someone didn't want you to find out. Jack's hands curled into fists, which means we're not just dealing with a random distress signal. We're dealing with a cover-up. The tension in the air thickened once more. Zelthar forced himself to remain calm. This was no longer just a historical anomaly. This was a mystery buried under millennia of forgotten history, a puzzle whose solution could change everything they understood about the past. A deep breath, a flicker of determination. I will assist you, Zelthar said firmly. If there is lost knowledge regarding humanity's fate, then it must be uncovered. The Galactic Science Council must be informed. Jack smirked. See? Knew you'd come around. The female human cracked her knuckles. All right then, we've got work to do. The human with glasses nodded, already scanning the data further. First things first, we need to find the source of that distress signal. Zelthar hesitated. You intend to go there? Jack grinned. Of course. What's the point of finding a mystery if you don't crack it wide open? Zelthar looked at them, truly looked at them, and for the first time he understood why the myths spoke of humans as legends. It wasn't just their adaptability, their technology, or their resilience. It was their sheer, unrelenting refusal to leave things alone. A species that had left the galaxy behind, only to return because they had heard a call for help. A species that had become legend, only to step back into reality as if they had never left. And as Zelthar watched the humans prepare to dive into the unknown, he realized something. History was about to be rewritten once again. He said, I need to create images related to this story, at least 3 images, _I will. Generate these images from an AI, please write me prompt accordingly. ChatGPT said. ChatGPT. Here are 3 detailed AI image prompts for generating images based on your story. 1. The humans crash into the alien university lecture hall.